Hello, everybody. Welcome into Go With The Flow, presented by R.S. Andrews. My name is Brandon Adams. I've got Dari Payro here from R.S. Andrews. We'll hear from the rest of the DawgNation experts here as well as we go with the flow this week, although there is a little bit less flow to get to. Georgia and Missouri now postponed, joining a host of SEC games, including Alabama LSU, which will not be played, Tennessee, Texas A&M, which will not be played, Auburn, Mississippi State, which had been the earliest postponement of the week. Just 3 SEC games on tap for this week, but we will supplement our coverage here today by looking at Augusta National and what's going to be going. But by the time you watch the show, what will be in the midst of happening there at Augusta here this weekend, we'll talk about some of that kind of stuff. But Dari, we all knew when the season was going to attempt to take place that there would be some bumpy roads along the way. And as it just so happens, a number of SEC teams seem to be having bumps at the same time here as a good number of cancellations have taken place. And all of a sudden, the SEC's built-in week off on December 12th ahead of the SEC championship. Some of the teams that are now not playing this week have already had need to make use of that December 12th date. So there's a little bit of a schedule reconfiguration on the way for the SEC. Georgia not playing, but we'll make do and do the best we can here with what we do have for the SEC this week, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of shuffling. Will they have to add an extra week now or push something else back? I mean, the question is, with all these teams getting off, are they going to need 2 weeks off? How bad are these outbreaks? We'll just have to wait and see how it affects the rest of the season, no doubt.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we'll follow all of that. We also want to update you on our season-long standings here before we make the picks for the games that are taking place. And we had quite some interesting movement last week with games with some folks who had been at the top slipping back a little bit. Some folks, including our own Dari Payro, making a big rise up the standings here. So things could get interesting as we head towards the rest of the way. In fact, let's check in on those standings right now. New leader at the top, that is DawgNation's Mike Griffith. He now stands at 33-21 on the year after a 6-1 week last week. So a big performance by Mike puts him at number 1 on the standings. Behind him, Jeff, Centel, who has continued to have success all season long. A losing week for Jeff for the first time all season, though. Last week he goes 3-4. That drops him to 31-23 on the year. He now stands in second place. But a big leap up the board by Dari Payro after a 6-1 week a week ago. Now at 30-24 on the year in the standings. So a huge move by Dari Payro, dropping down the DawgNation daily listeners and viewers. They just 2-5 on the week, now 29-25 on the year. BA, that's me, worst week of the year for me. And all of a sudden now I'm plummeting in the standings. I am now in last place after 2-5 a week ago at just 23-31 on the year. That means Connor's moving up, and he did a big job a week ago, 6-1. Now sits him at 26-28 on the year. So Connor knocking on the door of 500, now out of the cellar. That moves me to the bottom of the list. So, Dar, you saw the board well a week ago, and really a couple of our folks who were making picks did as well, Connor and Mike also. But a very successful week last week, setting up for what's yet to come for the rest of the season here.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking to continue in those winning ways. And keep the momentum going. Even with the short picks here, hopefully I can pick up 1 or 2, this week.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. And as I said before, we are going to kind of give some thoughts on the Masters. It'll be in action by the time you see the show. We're making the picks about the benefit of seeing the first round or any part of the second round on that. But it's always one of the fun gambling events of the year. So we'll do our part on that before we're done here today. Just 3 games in the SEC docket, all 3 of which involve double-digit home favorites. We will begin with Kentucky hosting Vanderbilt. Kentucky week off last Saturday after having challenged Georgia for part of the game 2 weeks ago and finally losing 14-3. Vanderbilt got a cover last week at Mississippi State. Bulldogs do win outright on the field, but Vanderbilt, after looking ugly at home a couple of times, got a road cover last Saturday against Mississippi State. They'll try to do the same thing on Saturday, getting 17 from the Kentucky Wildcats there in Lexington. So with that in mind, Mike Griffith, why don't you start us off on Kentucky hosting Vanderbilt, Kentucky giving the 17 points. Mike, take it away.
Yeah, that's too much. Vanderbilt isn't much of a program, but neither is Kentucky's offense. So this is a game Kentucky dominates, but only wins 24-10.
So Mike takes Vanderbilt to find a way to cover it once again. Jeff Sintel, how about your thoughts on the Wildcats and the Commodores?
17 is enough. I think Kentucky and Joey Gatewood covers, and that's all I need to say about that.
So Jeff likes Kentucky. Connor Riley, how about you? Tell us your thoughts on Kentucky and Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Kentucky had the bye week. I think they're going to be able to run the ball, figure some stuff out offensively. I think that they can score 17 points in this game. So give me the Wildcats here.
So it is the Kentucky Wildcats for Connor Riley there as well. How about DawgNation daily listeners and viewers on this? 78% do take Kentucky in the game here to cover the 17 against Vanderbilt. And Dari, I'm going to join them on that. You know, I carefully took Vanderbilt a week ago to cover that number against Mississippi State. And I say carefully because this is obviously a really bad team. The notion that Vanderbilt right now is ready to cover 2 weeks in a row, I don't quite see that as a possibility. This is a Kentucky team that is tough. They do play, a physical brand of football. They are limited with what they're able to do offensively. But in a game like this, it makes them somewhat upset proof. Now, you got to score a good number of points to get a 17-point win. If you want to say Kentucky's not quite capable of scoring enough points, I can at least listen to that. But if I'm going to be wrong, I want to be wrong on the side of the better team. Kentucky is clearly that for me. I will take Big Blue. That puts the flow on the side of the Wildcats. You want to go with the flow and take Kentucky.
Yeah, I'm going to take Kentucky here. Playing at home, they're coming off the bye. Their defense has been really good this year, and I think it's just too much for Vandy, to score a lot of points against. I really like the under in this game. I think it's around 41, 42 points. I'm looking at a score of 27-7 or 24-6 type game here.
So let me ask you that then. As I mentioned a moment ago, the only argument I can make for even picking Vanderbilt, other than just wanting to be the outright contrarian, are you sure that Kentucky can score enough points to cover a 17-point spread? That's the only pause I have here. Obviously, I think they must be able to because I just took them to do so. But if you want to reconsider your pick at all, you would simply ask, does Kentucky score enough points to cover a number like this?
Yeah, I mean, 70 or 17s, definitely a lot for Kentucky. But Vanderbilt's defense is awful. So I think Kentucky is going to be able to run the ball a bit, throw it just enough. Again, I think anybody gets in. I mean, I don't see getting more than 20 some points. I mean, unless it's like Tennessee where they have multiple defensive touchdowns, which is always possible against Vandy. But Vandy on the road, I mean, I just don't see. I just don't see them doing much in this game.
We're off and running here on Go with the Flow, presented by R.S. Andrews. And by the way, make sure you check out R.S. Andrews for all your air conditioning, your heating, plumbing, and electric needs. If your water heater goes out, in many cases, R.S. Andrews can replace it for you the same day. That's great for this weekend. When you want to be watching the Masters, you see Dari. He's got his Augusta National shirt on right there. A lot of you getting decked out in your own gear for the weekend, getting ready to settle in and enjoy some Masters. The last thing you want is to have your weekend ruined because there's no hot shower, because goodness knows the wife and the family aren't going to take no for an answer on that. So if you've got an issue, plumbing, electric, heating, air conditioning, get it taken care of by the folks who know how to get this stuff done. Story after story, R.S. Andrews has been delivering a smile. They'll deliver a smile for you as well, but you need to find them online at rsandrews.com and keep that number, that contact handy in case you have any kind of issue like that heading towards the weekend, or really any weekend. Speaking of the weekend, I would say the marquee game in the SEC, now that we've had all the cancellations, is Florida, fresh off of I don't even like to talk about it, a win against the Georgia Bulldogs last Saturday, returning to Gainesville now to host Arkansas this upcoming weekend with no Coach Sam Pittman. Pittman, of course, contracted the coronavirus, tested positive, and he will not be available for the Hogs on Saturday. But so much of the Arkansas success this season has been powered by assistant coaches anyway. Kendall Browse, the work that he's done with Arkansas's offense. Barry Odom, one of the nation's top assistants thus far this year, with what he's done with the Razorback defense. So Arkansas should still be in good coaching hands. And Dari, before we hear the picks from our DawgNation team, a chance for Florida, and I don't want you to give your pick away here yet, but a chance for Florida to capitalize on what was undoubtedly the top win of the Dan Mullen era a week ago against UGA.
Yeah, they're going to look to keep things going. Big win for them. We'll see how they respond, to actually beating Georgia. I mean, that hasn't happened in a long time. anytime soon. So with any of these players on those teams, so we'll see, what kind of response they have coming this weekend.
So we will start seeing now what the DawgNation folks think about all of this. Let me start with DawgNation's Mike Griffith with Florida hosting Arkansas as 17.5-point favorites. Mike, your thought on the Hogs and the Gators?
Yeah, it's really too bad that Sam Pittman's not going to be coaching this game. He's a winning edge kind of guy. I might have picked Arkansas to pull the upset. As it is, Arkansas is a well-coached team. They've got a quarterback that can throw it more than 20 yards downfield accurately, and they don't bust much on defense. So they're going to keep it close on Florida. The SEC office isn't going to give Florida another 2 weeks off before this game like they did Georgia. So I'm going to make it Florida 34, Arkansas 27.
So, Mike, the leader in our season-long contest, takes Arkansas there. Jeff Sintel, how about for you?
I think Florida's going to have a little bit of hangover from last week. Look at how Georgia traditionally plays the week after they slobber-knockered and defeated the Gators. It was kind of a valley a little bit. I think Arkansas plays well. I think they do in some small ways still get inspired by Coach Pittman not being there. I think they keep this a very tight ball game. Florida's going to win. I think Arkansas will cover that spread.
It is Arkansas for Jeff Sintel as well. Now, Connor Riley, tell us your thoughts.
I can't believe no one has mentioned this yet. It is a Felipe Franks revenge game going back into the swamp. I don't think he's going to win, but I do think this team's going to play hard for Sam Pittman, whether he's there or not. Give me the Yezers.
So clean sweep on Arkansas. DawgNation daily listeners and viewers will join in on that. 61% of them also taking the Hogs against the Gators. A little lower percentage than normally would go against Florida. I guess Florida earned some credibility with Georgia fans after the win last Saturday. Dari, I've been struggling the last couple of weeks, and certainly last week was an awful week for me. And one of the things that has been the most frustrating about my picks was after really being I think maybe all of us, the highest in Arkansas at the beginning of the season, I had chosen to go against them the last two Saturdays on what I was calling kind of an attempt to sell high, abandon them after I'd gotten some big wins with Arkansas earlier in the year. Backdoor cover for Arkansas against Texas A&M, outright win last Saturday against Tennessee. So the danger here is being wrong kind of on both sides of the Hogs. The one thing that I'll say about Florida is last year, after a bad loss for the Gators to Georgia in terms of deflating the rest of the season, Florida really shook it off and went on a pretty good run through the month of November, handling their business as a favorite. This is a big number. Arkansas has proven itself to be a pretty good team. This, to me, though, still feels like a bridge too far. I am going to take Florida. There's nothing I love more than to see Pittman's team play close, get the win, even though Pittman isn't there. But I just feel like that's too much wishful thinking on my part. I have liked Arkansas all year long. I've been wrong by picking against them twice the last 2 weeks. But I'm going to do it again here. I'm going to take Florida minus the 17.5 points. I don't like it, but I think Florida probably proved something last Saturday. So give me the Gators, but the flow is on the side of Arkansas. You want to go with the flow and take the Hogs.
Well, it's an interesting game from a gambling perspective to see how this plays out. But Florida's offense is giving out doctoral degrees right now. Brandon, there's lots of clinical hours that they are laying on teams.
Yeah.
They're putting on a clinic with this offense, and it's tough for just about any team to keep pace with the Gators. I mean, Bama can, probably Ohio State, fully healthy Clemson. But outside of that, I don't know how many teams are going to be able to keep up with this. I think there's going to be a tad bit of a hangover after beating Georgia in this game. They haven't been in this situation before. It's not enough like Florida's going to lose this game, but I think it's enough for Arkansas to hang around and cover in this game. Felipe Franks is going to make his return to the swamp. I think he's going to be out there to prove that he's a pretty good quarterback. And if he has a great game, Arkansas is definitely going to cover, and that's what I'm banking on. So give me Arkansas on the points.
If that happens, if Arkansas finds a way to even keep this game close on Saturday, you're talking about one of the most miraculous turnarounds, and it could very well indeed be the case. But if it does, let's make sure we give credit for what an amazing turnaround has taken place at Arkansas after having really been lifeless in the SEC for the last 2 seasons, to be a formidable threat, to even play it close in Gainesville, getting wins against Tennessee, getting wins against some of the other schools that Arkansas has play, really probably should have been given the win against Auburn, if not for some bad officiating. This has been an amazing year for the Razorbacks, and you do have to give Pittman and the entire Hawks coaching staff credit for how all of this has played out.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, typically you don't get coach of the year awards or stuff like that with a losing record. You may try to give it to like Dan Mullen with the Gators if they continue to win, because they got over the Georgia hump. But really, I think Pittman should be up for that, with the job that they've done there. I mean, they've been competitive in all these games, and I don't think anybody thought they would be this competitive when they started the year with, how they've been the past several years in Arkansas.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's exactly right. All right, next game in the SEC, another double-digit home favorite. This time it's Ole Miss as an 11.5-point chalk hosting South Carolina. Gamecocks had probably their worst loss of the season, maybe one of the worst of the Will Muschamp era last Saturday, blown out by Texas A&M. The calls for Muschamp to lose his job have now grown deafening. Probably a good thing to be on the road, just given all of the potential distractions surrounding Muschamp in Columbia right now. Ole Miss had the week off last Saturday after beating up on Vanderbilt the Saturday before that. So they get going back again in Oxford here with the high-powered Lane Kiffin offense once again on display. To start us off with the picks here in this game, let's hear once again from DawgNation's Mike Griffith.
That's too much. South Carolina, Will Muschamp's getting buried in the press there. There's a lot of talk about the Charleston Southern coach and Hugh Freeze. I just don't think that Ole Miss plays much defense. I think that South Carolina can keep this close enough to cover the spread. I'm going to go Ole Miss 30, South Carolina 26.
So credit to Mike there for having the guts to go with South Carolina as a team that'll keep it close against Ole Miss on Saturday. Takes some courage to do that, given how bad the Gamecocks were blown out a week ago. Jeff Sintel, what say you?
I guess this is going to be a litmus for me about which team is more checked out. Is it Tennessee or South Carolina right now in the SEC East? I see this game. I see Ole Miss being able to put up some points. I know they're favored to win by 11.5 against South Carolina. I think they will win by more than 11.5.
So it's Ole Miss there for Jeff Sintel. Now Connor Riley.
Yeah, this South Carolina team got its brains beat in last week. Ole Miss coming off a bye week here. I think they're fresh. I think they're ready. I think they want to roll up some points here and look impressive for Lane Kiffin. So give me the Rebels and the points to cover this week.
Also Ole Miss for Connor Riley. DawgNation Daily listeners and viewers, they agree as well. 66% on the Rebels to cover the 11.5 there at home. Another one of the SEC teams that's frustrated me recently has been South Carolina. From the beginning of the season, this is one of the teams I've been the most wrong about, really touting them as a feisty underdog, someone capable of keeping it close. And at times this year, it seemed like the Gamecocks were on their way to validating that. They did cover the spread against Florida, got a high-profile win against a team, say, like Auburn, for instance. So they've had their moments where they've played okay, but in other games, they just have not quite shown up and been able to demonstrate what you want to see from them there. So with that in mind, I think I've kind of waved the white flag on the Gamecocks here. I no longer believe in them, or can I talk myself into taking them. We asked earlier if Kentucky's capable of scoring enough points to cover the 17. We don't know about that. At least I'll wait and find out. Clearly, Ole Miss is capable of scoring that many points. They're also capable of giving up a lot too. But this is Gamecocks offense with first-year coordinator Mike Bobo that's not exactly finding a lot of success as of late. This feels like a fairly easy pick for me. I have no reason to believe that South Carolina has any interest in playing hard on the road here. And Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin in a first-year coaching situation, there's a little juice around him. I think he would like to impress the home fans, at least the ones that are lucky enough to have tickets on Saturday. I'll take Ole Miss here minus the 11.5. I thought they were an easy cover against Vanderbilt. I was rewarded for thinking that way. I'll say the same thing here now. That puts the flow on the side of Ole Miss too. Dar, you want to go with the flow and take Ole Miss?
Absolutely. The extra week off here is going to help Ole Miss. South Carolina's offense is struggling, and Ole Miss likes to stack touchdowns. I think they're going to do a lot of that this Saturday. They're gonna really show off that high-powered offense again. I think it's just too much for South Carolina to keep pace in this game.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's Go With The Flow presented by R.S. Andrews. That's Dari Payro from R.S. Andrews. Make sure you check him out. Listen, I love making a recommendation on this show that I can feel proud of. And obviously, the recommendation I can make for R.S. Andrews is certainly one of those things. We're heading towards a winter season where the heating system is about to be working overdrive. If you're concerned yours might not be ready to go ahead and get that peace of mind right now. You see Dari and his Masters Green. Well, R.S. Andrews can save you some green by handling the situation now, getting your system tuned back up to factory fresh specs. That could save you from a more expensive fix later on. So go ahead and get that heating system ready to go. Check them out online at rsandrews.com. Now, with that said, we're actually done with college football for the weekend because there's no top 25 matchup outside the SEC here this weekend. And most of the SEC has now been put on the ice due to the coronavirus. So that leads us into Augusta National for the weirdest Masters ever, taking place in and around some football this weekend, dodging some weather here and there, and also trying to hold a golf tournament that will be of great interest to all of us. So we thought we would close things out by looking at the Masters from a gambling standpoint. Now, important caveat here. By the time our audience watches this show, they will have the benefit of seeing all of the first round and part of the second round by the time this show hits the airwaves coming up on Friday. We are making these picks right now without any of that information at our disposal. And Dari, I'm curious how you want to do this. I like to typically look at somebody from like the sort of chalk area, the kind of favored category, kind of someone a little lower down the trough. And I typically kind of look at a UGA guy there as well. How do you kind of want to slice this up and, kind of give some thoughts on some of this?
Yeah, I mean, we look at the, kind of that tier one cut,
Okay.
kind of some of those guys that may have some good value, as far as the odds to pay it out. And then, I think there's definitely some of those mid-tier guys that can make a run, and there's some guys that have a pretty good payout, I think it's worth taking a flyer on. And then obviously we can get to some of the Georgia players that are in here and some prop bets around that. Just a note real quick, flipping back to, college football is, I try to stay away from teasers, but, that Ole Miss at 11.5, is a number I'd really prefer to be under 10. So looking at a teaser that you can tease that down, 6 points, even with you pair it with Kentucky, tease that down 6 points. There could be a thing to get a couple of those games that you can kind of tease and get those spreads in a probably more favorable reach zone for both those teams to cover.
I think that's exactly right. My personal taste would be I would stay away from an Arkansas, Florida teaser because the chance of that game kind of getting out of hand, it would have to be a pretty big number for me to feel, too good about that one way or another, unless you just really, tease the Arkansas side, down way, way low. But I think, teasing Ole Miss and Kentucky down to the point where all you're really kind of asking them to do is, win the game, not necessarily cover a big number. I do think that could, in a weekend we don't have a lot of college football to have fun with, putting Ole Miss and Kentucky in a situation where they don't have to cover a huge number to give you a winning ticket. I'm not telling you that's good value. I'm just saying it could be at least be some fun, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if you can get Ole Miss down to under 10 points or under a touchdown, and if you can get Kentucky down to like 11 or so, I think those hurdles are much easier for those offenses to make those covers. So
I think that's exactly right. Okay, let me give you everybody at Augusta who's less than a 20-1 favorite to win. DeChambeau, as you might expect, is obviously the favorite at 8-1 right now, coming off his U.S. Open win. Dustin Johnson also joins him at 8-1. You've got John Rahm at 10-1. Of course, there's a great history of Spaniards winning the Masters. Justin Thomas at 12-1 right now, the SEC product out of the University of Alabama. Rory McIlroy, who's had a lot of heartbreak at Augusta, he's at 13-1. Xander Schauffele, 15-1. Brooks Koepka, who's battled injuries, he is at 18-1. So those are the guys below 20-1. That's our top list of favorites there. Dari, the only real strong feeling I have is even though all the hype this week is going to surround Bryson DeChambeau, that's not a player I like to win at Augusta right now. There's no doubt that he's going to bomb this course and really go after everything, unprecedented length he's going to try to show. But it's the accuracy, which he admittedly did show at the U.S. Open. There's no question about that. Not only was DeChambeau long, he was also accurate. His drive dispersion was, I think, the smallest of anybody in the field that particular week. but you're not going to win at Augusta making long putts. You're going to have to, get it in close there. And even though DeChambeau is going to be, using his wedge game from very, very close in, this is not a guy I like to win this week. And I don't think any action from me would really include anything from DeChambeau right now. What are you going to come down on Bryson, who's pretty clearly the man of the hour at the moment?
Yeah, so he's either going to run away with this or he's going to be really not in contention. I think it's two ends of the spectrum on this. Typically with gambling like that, I stay away from players that have that much variance.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take a handful of times playing here like that with that strategy before he fine tunes it. It definitely has merit because, Tiger Woods has always said, distance at Augusta definitely helps. Phil Mickelson talked about it coming into this. He's getting a driver he can hit farther. He's actually, with his equipment change, he's leading the tour in distance, which is crazy. But he's also dead last in accuracy on tour. He says accuracy doesn't matter if he can carry it 325 yards at Augusta because it kind of, wherever it lands is kind of in play on certain holes.
That's right.
So he's okay with that, of not having it, as long as he can get that carry. But I think he's played this course a lot. He knows it inside and out. Bryson doesn't. He's just not there yet. So I'm kind of staying away from him this week. I do like Dustin Johnson.
Yeah.
He's playing great. He's due. I mean, this course suits up perfect for him. I think anybody that has a really good chance of winning here, everything that I've read, players that talk about it, that play here in the off season, and then they, typically, the spring they're playing in the tournament. When they talk about playing in November and in the fall, the course plays longer. You don't get enough roll as you do in the spring. The grass is different. Everything's not fully grown in the way it is in the spring. So there are a lot of differences of how this course plays, and it favors people that hit the ball farther. So guys that have big sticks are going to matter a lot more, and that really narrows down a lot of people.
I think that's an interesting point. I'll also say this, one of the things that Augusta National does not really tolerate, the elaborate greens reading books, things like that DeChambeau loves to use. That's one of the reasons why he's a slow player, is because he loves to just pour over the green reads and the various measurements that he and his team kind of put together. That's another potential knock on DeChambeau here. I'd probably sprinkle a little bit around the favorites near DeChambeau, a little bit on Dustin, a little bit on Rahm, maybe a little bit on Thomas. Certainly JT would kind of factor into your long hitter category there. Let me give you the next group, kind of like that group of 40-1 and down. Webb Simpson, Jason Day, they're both at 40. The young guys, Matthew Wolff, 38-1. Colin Morikawa, of course, PGA championship winner. He's at a 35-1. You got Finau at 30-1. Patrick Reed, former Masters champion, at 31. Bubba Watson, former Masters champion. Of course, UGA got 30-1. Terrell Hatton at 27-1. Patrick Cantlay at 25-1. Hideki Matsuyama at 25-1. From that group, anything interesting to you from that group there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I love Bubba this week. Go Dogs. I think he's gonna have a great Masters week. I like a lot of different prop bets with him. I think he's gonna get top 5 finish. It's a really good payout. Top 10 finish. I think that's it's almost around, plus 300, somewhere around there. I think those are really good bets for Bubba. Maybe put a little bit on him to win outright. He does, he's always said he doesn't like big crowds. So I think playing here where he's really comfortable and not having crowds here at Augusta is gonna help him. And he's coming in, he's playing really good golf right now. If you look at all his stats coming into this, this is probably, one of the best how he's been playing coming into this tournament in a long time. So I like him. I like Webb Simpson. I think he's really good value. He's kind of a major winner. He's been playing well. He's kind of got all the tools. He hits it long enough. He's really good. He's really good with his irons. He's a really good putter. He's been playing here for a while now.
I think Matthew Wolff at 38-1 is worth a look. The Oklahoma State product.
It is. I mean, it's tricky. So typically, rookies here don't do well at all. I probably would prefer more Karwa.
Okay.
If you're going to take a rookie, to take a flyer on, just because he seems more like of a systematic golf swing that's very consistent. Wolf's
got a major under his belt already.
Yeah, Wolf's kind of all over the map. I mean, obviously, with no fans here, that doesn't affect these guys as much. That's just kind of like playing on college. Where there's kind of a handful of people there. I like some of these. I like Cameron Champ. He hits the ball far. I think
65 to 1 on Champ, by the way.
Yeah, he's not. I don't think he's going to win it, but I like maybe taking a flyer in a top 20 finish on a prop bet with him.
Okay.
I like a top 20 finish for Kisner. I don't know where he's at overall, but I think he's been playing well at Augusta. The length is
130 to 1 to win, but
wow, 130.
You're talking about a different kind of thing there in terms of a prop for a top 20 finish. But if you want him to win, you get him at 130 right now.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the distance to get it done. This isn't like a year where Mike Weir is going to win,
right?
And you're going to have to be able to bomb the ball this week to get it done.
If I take a former champion right now, you mentioned a good case for Bubba, and I like Bubba. Not everybody does, but I do like Bubba. So I would be interested in that. Former champion like Adam Scott, someone who knows this course well at 50 to 1. That might be, worth a look as a part of certainly not my lone pick to win, but as a part of a profile of potential picks. I might get talked into a 50 to 1 look on Adam Scott. Anybody from like the real long shot category. I mean, you made a nice case for Kisner in terms of finishing the top 20. Anybody from like the real long shot category that you might say, hey, just a little bit of a crazy flyer on. If you're looking at UGA guys, Brendan Todd's at 180 to 1. Todd's played some great golf the last 12 months. I mean, at 180 to 1, at least to have some fun with, you could probably do worse than Brendan Todd at 180 to 1.
Absolutely. I think that's a good a juicy payout on that. Take a little flyer on a small wager on him. I mean, he's hung around that top 10 leaderboard in a lot of tournaments. So pretty consistent golf. He's playing well. I'm sure he's going to be fired up to be playing here at Augusta. So I think that's a good flyer. What's Phil Mickelson? I haven't checked his
Phil Mickelson, I think it's 72 to 1. I think did I see 72 to 1 on him? 75 to 1. 75 to 1 on Mickelson.
75 to 1. I actually wouldn't mind taking a flyer on Phil with the payout because he knows this place so well. I think that's really good odds. Take a small bet on him. Last Masters he was there through Saturday and kind of fizzled out on Saturday, but he was right there in the mix. And he can be there anything. He's doing a lot of tweaking in his golf bag. With he's playing high handicap irons now.
Yeah,
so he thinks that's going to allow him to hit it softer in here. I mean, he's a golf nerd when it comes to all the metrics. So,
and there's no doubt he's taking this seriously, right? I mean, at this stage of his career, I think that he now knows that he's probably not going to get the career Grand Slam. U.S. Open may just be a bridge too far for him at this point in time. But as we said before, this is a course that favors folks who've played well here before. And Mickelson, in addition to his wins, has a number of impressive Masters performances. And this is a course where, frankly, older guys have shown they can kind of hang around and play well here. So I think for a number of years to come, Phil's going to take this particular week seriously. And I think this won't be the last chance that Phil has to play well in Augusta, but certainly the course will get his best shot coming up this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, any of these guys, Phil, Tiger, they're going to be able to play well at Augusta for the next decade or so. They're going to be able to compete. They're going to have years where they show up, just kind of how Freddie Couples was popping up, going into Sunday, right there. The only other places they'll probably pop up are select courses, select British Open courses, depending on the venue.
Yeah.
And
depending on how much the weather cooperates on a given weekend.
Yeah, it has to be the right course and the right weather cooperation. But we've seen it with Tom Watson. We saw it with Greg Norman. Both of them around 60 years old competing in those tournaments. So, but yeah, U.S. Open's probably out the window as well as like the PGA. But Augusta is always there for these guys that really know these greens inside and out.
And if you are curious, the defending champion Tiger Woods is 42 to 1 to win this year's event there as well, fresh off his champions dinner for the week that included a nice selection of what did he have? He had some fajitas, and he had some. I think he had some. He had a nice little collection. So I think he had some sushi for an appetizer. It was quite an eclectic collection for the champions dinner for Tiger, who's had a few of those there on the grounds of Augusta National.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. The more you get, the more crazier mix-ups you can do, right? You don't have to. You can kind of just do whatever you want at this point.
We'll finish with this. What would your champions dinner selection be? What would you want to have?
Man, I'd probably just go, with really good steak, and I'd probably go more classic, something on that, and get
me too.
It's really good chef to come in.
Yeah, I'd either go really hardcore with like the surf and turf steak and lobster, with kind of like a bisque type soup to start, maybe like in honor of the area, or at least near the area there, maybe like a little she crab soup to start with, like a good surf and turf going, or just go hardcore barbecue, get the big ribs going, get the big starchy sides, decadent dessert. I'd go one of the two directions, either barbecue or surf and turf with steak and lobster.
Yeah, well, I mean that's my other play would be doing like full on pig picking. Have the pig, the whole hog.
Oh yeah. Have you ever had a pig in the ground before?
Oh yeah,
it's
in the ground on the smoker.
Yeah.
Done it a lot. Did a lot of that in college. A little Eastern Carolina style hog. I think that would be a great, with some rack of ribs, and we kind of get a pork three-way. Different kinds of variations of the pork. I think that would be a great dinner too. Actually, now just talking about it, I think that leapfrogs into what it would be, and I think I actually would just go with that.
Well, now I'm hungry, so let's get ready to wrap this up so I can get some lunch.
Yeah, I think another good prop bet, since you mentioned like Adam Scott is, and you were talking about former Masters winners.
Yeah,
who finished the lowest of those Masters winners. That's a prop bet that's out there. You can choose which players may finish with the best score when it's all said and done. So I think there's definitely value there. Probably with Adam Scott, probably with Bubba. In that prop bet as well.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. And, this is also an event where who you choose not to bet on is just as important as who you do bet on. As we said before, we kind of take a little bit of a stand against DeChambeau. McIlroy's a guy who's, I'm not really quite sure where his head's at right now. That's another guy I take a little bit of a stand against. There are some people where you look at it and say, I'm just not quite sure it's going to be this guy's week. And so I would advise people know who you're against as much as you know who you're for going into a weekend like this.
Yeah, and the one to keep an eye on is Koepka, right? He was injured, kind of came back. I think his injury is kind of, I don't know, somewhat fake after all the and he had going in the PGA Championship, how he was going to close that out, and then he just blew up on Sunday, and then all of a sudden that Monday he said he was shutting it down for his knee. I think he kind of crawled back into his cave and just was like, kind of getting over that. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where his game's at. He's been, in majors, just, lights out, over the past couple of years. So I'm kind of curious to see how he plays. That's a little bit of an unknown.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The feud ongoing that he's had with DeChambeau. Right now, Bryson DeChambeau looks like the clear winner of that, at least as of late. So it's a fun weekend of sports, if not quite as much college football as we would prefer. But we will be back next week to update the standings and talk about all the other games they take place. I'm assuming Georgia's playing Mississippi State next Saturday, but I can't say that for sure given the fact that Mississippi State is dealing with a huge number of coronavirus cases right now. So it's about to get weird, folks. So buckle your seatbelt, and we'll just go along for a wild ride here on the way towards the season's close. But either way, one way or another, we'll look forward to being back with you again next week for Go With The Flow, presented by R.S. Andrews, and we'll talk to you then.